Welcome to the additional video from Module 6 of Action Research, and I'm going to talk about Section 5, the final section of the Action Research proposal. So hopefully this will be as helpful as the past four to wrap up the final section, right, of the proposal. So my general advice, this is the section for reiterating, setting future direction for your research questions, but also having the last word. That's a big thing. It's really important to remember that third person is what it's all about, right? Like with the previous section, keep the data, keep the subjects, keep the study as your active subjects. Avoid that first person. So the overall goal of this section, articulating focused thoughts on anticipated findings and what their implications might be, right? If this was a completed study, this section would do much the same, but the conclusions would be supported by the data and the analysis, right? I hope that this section writes itself in one sit down. It should. Make sure you're reaching out through your A-State email to me, to our academic assistant, if you need to, in order to sift through questions. But I think it should be good. So first steps, like before, don't forget your Blackboard posting. You may have some thoughts on types of study data analysis that might be the seed for further articulation. But what you may not have written a post before, right, in the academic language, but the logic applies. So revisit each previous section, right? Make sure that all four sections are resonating with you, that you're thinking and breathing the full scope of everything, and let those anticipated implications for the research and possible actions that might come from just kind of flow naturally out of all those. Each week I've reminded, look at the handout, look at the rubric, make sure you access those, that you've downloaded and are using Microsoft Word. The instructions are still under the announcement section. Use the template file, of course. It's set up for you, right? Don't copy paste material from other sources. I mean, with the exception of the other template files, or your other four parts, obviously. Those with your what am I trying to say? Your references, right? If you're bringing references from one to the other, that'll work. But erroneous formatting will come along for the ride. Read and trust the handout. Keep the rubric in mind. But the most important thing, right, is here and here your passion on your topic. So just like the other ones, likely approximately 2 pages, counting the title page and references. Don't be quick necessarily. Don't be slim in those paragraphs, right? You've done these other sections, so think, predict what might the implications of this research be, right? The quality is more important, right? From the handout, Section 5, it can have some different versions of the title, right? Recommendations or implications or plan for action. I kind of like plan for action in the sense that you can change that title of Section 5 to plan for action because it's action research. But the implications to the field section, right? This is where you remind the reader why the anticipated findings of the action research will matter, right? The resulting action, predicting how education might be different, speculating on possible impact of the findings. Obviously, the references will either be new and additional ones, or you're continuing to bring them forward. But by this point, as I'll say again in a second, right, it should be every source you've cited and mentioned should appear there. Appendix or multiple appendices may or may not be necessary, depending on, you may or may not have some. So let's put this more in the context of the section. Look at the template file, right? There's really 2 key portions. The rest are references and appendix. This section does definitely not need an introduction. It's not necessary. Just jump right into it, right? You're still welcome to add one, but I don't see the need in this particular section. So the implications to the field. The section for delivering those final points about the anticipated findings of the research. Why those findings matter. Much like Section 1, and the research sounding urgent without sounding desperate, this should convey that same tone, right? really, really have to be careful that you don't put yourself in it, right? It's not about why you think the findings matter. It's about why the findings themselves matter, right? The findings, the research is the subject. Foreground the research, background the researcher, right? Avoid that first person. The resulting action is your section for discussing teaching, education, classroom pedagogy, right? How it might be different, how it might be improved, enhanced, thanks to the possible results of the study. This is all about possible impact, right? Prediction, projection. So again, the references should encompass any citations from the previous section. At this point, they must all appear there. Appendix sections are totally optional. I would say only if you designed a possible data collection instrument. I think, though, that any of that you might have done probably is going to appear in a table form in sections 3 or 4 as a real basic rudimentary table, or like a list of interview questions you might ask. Usually you're not going to have any data collection instruments in an appendix section until they have actually been approved for human subject research. That's why you probably won't. It's possible you might have some type of artifact from your classroom or from the research setting that might be a meaning holding artifact that played a role in the impetus for the idea, but again, I think it's likely you probably won't. Make sure to delete the appendix section from the template if you don't use it, right? And don't forget about the APA styles examples handout for further ways to mix that up. And with other weeks in the module activities, right, once you've completed your BioSig ID, that 6.3 submission link will appear along with the activities folder. I'll have another shout out video as well, and then of course the final one in module 7, which will have some highlights from what you submit with section 5 this week. Wolves up. We'll see you in the final module.